Childhood and Growing Up. This is for B.Ed first year, exclusively for Pondicherry University, explained by Dr. Shubha, Vasavi College of Education, Pondicherry. Now this is Unit 6. We are going to deal with socio-cultural impact on learner, under which we will be dealing with social stratification, that is classification, dimension of stratification, factors of family, school and media influence, social norms, social acceptance, sociometric status, socio-empathic ability, nature of prejudice, socio-cultural impact on learning, difficulties and learning disabilities, cultural space of the learner, leadership influence in behavior. So in this unit, we are going to deal with the nature of prejudice. Prejudice can be described as a negative attitude or an observable behavior towards a certain socially defined group or members of that group. It is also known as prejudgment. The emotions felt or behavior portrayed cannot be quantified nor can it be justified. What is this? Means this sect of people, that is this caste, will behave only like this. This caste, upper caste, lower caste, they will behave only like this. They don't know certain etiquettes. So we have a certain preconceived ideas about a certain group of people. The preconceived notions and ideas about certain group of people is called prejudice. A teacher also has prejudice. Like some rich parents, if at all the parents are very rich and they are in a very big post, then the teacher will think the student will definitely be intelligent and he will be honest. So that's a prejudice. And if a child comes from a very poor background, economically or officially or socially, then the teacher might think this child will definitely be poor. So this is a preconceived idea about a person or about a group of person. So this is known as prejudice. Now, Nature of Prejudice is the title of a book written by the great psychologist Allport. We'll see about that. So prejudice is known as prejudgment. The emotions felt or behavior portrayed cannot be quantified nor can it be justified. Even though in the modern society, prejudice and discrimination are seen as inappropriate or undesirable, it does still exist within each person and they vary in magnitude and severity individually. Like the British people, when they were in India, they used to look down on us. That's a prejudice. These people are meant only for slavery. So like that, they had an idea, prejudice. So it's a preconceived idea. But even now, it's still existing. But of course, it is undesirable, it's inappropriate, but it is still there in the society. The book titled Nature of Prejudice was written by Gordon Allport in 1950s and first published by Wesley in 1954. That is 4 years gap. And the book's most lasting contribution is its success in redefining the relation between intergroup contact and prejudice. What do you mean by this intergroup contact? It is there are so many groups and each group, like groups can be classes like upper class, lower class, middle class, and the caste. In India we have like umpteen number of million classes, million caste systems, million races. So the intergroup contact and the preconceived idea of one group about the other group, that's the prejudice. While some previous scholars argued that contact between different groups leads to increased prejudice and conflict, Allport argued to the contrary, which has been described as supported by literally hundreds of studies from dozens of nations. Another idea introduced in the book became known as Alpert's scale, a measure of prejudice. So he was the first one to devise a scale, how to measure prejudice. So he says that if there are so many different groups, then the prejudice may not increase and the conflict may not increase. But some scholars, they argue that if there are many different groups, like so many villages we have, in Tamil movies we say Padinittu. So each village will have fight with the other person. Each village, they will have a leader and they have an idea for that village. They have a preconceived idea, and this village people will fight with the other village people. So that's a prejudice, and that will lead to the conflict. So there are four main explanations given by Alpert. Authoritarian personality, realistic conflict theory, which is known as Robert's cave, stereotyping, social identity theory. These four we will discuss in detail. People with authoritarian personalities were more likely to categorize people into us and them groups, seeing their own group as superior, that we are the elite group and we are in a higher status than the other group. Us and them, me and you, it's like that. So I am the authority, you are the subordinate. So that's the idea. Therefore, the study indicated that individuals with a very strict upbringing by critical and harsh parents were most likely to develop an authoritarian personality. That is, I was brought up like this. We were disciplined like that. My mother was like that. My grandparent was very, honest. So I was brought up like that. So I am the authority. Whatever I say will be correct. So that idea. So this is known as authoritarian personality. Now realistic conflict theory, which is also known as Robert's cave. We are dealing with prejudice now. Muzaffar Sharif is a famous social psychologist. Important, very important work he has given to the field of psychology, and his understanding about groups and its members. That's what is known as Robert's cave. His main contribution is known as realistic conflict theory, and it accounts for group conflict. That is why people are fighting amongst groups. Negative prejudices and stereotypes. That is, he will be like that, stereotype. A boy should be like this. A girl should be like this. A girl will not behave in a brave manner. A boy will not cry. So this is a stereotype. As being the result of competition between groups for desired resources. Sharif validated this theory in one of his most famous experiments, which is known as Robert's cave. That's why this is called as Robert's cave. He argued that intergroup conflict, that is conflict between groups, occurs when two groups are in competition for limited resources. So that is, let's suppose you have some resource. Resource means what? Like, let's suppose government is announcing some monetary benefit. For that benefit, two groups are fighting. Now, two groups, they want to get that resource. They want to get that monetary benefit or monetary fund from the government. So definitely there will be a conflict or a fight between them. So they will have group conflict or negative prejudices. So this is what? Intergroup conflict or a competition for limited resources. Only some resources are there and I want to get it, you want to get it. Like recently in Shirdi also, like we had a conflict, like some two villages, and Shirdi people say that this is the place where Baba was there living, and the other person said no, Baba was here, so here also you have to build a mosque. So it's like that. So two village people are fighting for some limited resources. Stereotyping, this is also a sort of prejudice. is a fixed generalized belief about a particular group or a class of people. So like boys, girls, upper class. So he is from an elite family. So he will behave in a very pious way. Like he will not lie. So this is a prejudice. A person who comes from a very, very high affluent family will not lie. So that's wrong. So we cannot say that who will lie. And a person who is very economically poor, definitely he will lie. So this is a stereotype or a prejudice. The advantage of a stereotype is that it enables us to respond rapidly to situations because we may have had a similar experience before. The disadvantage is that it makes us ignore differences between individuals. Therefore, we think things about people that might not be true. That is, we make generalization. That is, this group of people will behave only like this. We think like that and immediately we respond in any situation. That's not true, because each individual is unique and every person is different from the other person. Each and every individual is different in their behavior. So, in their makeup, in their mind makeup and heart makeup. So, we need to be very, very careful, and we cannot stereotype or generalize a person's ability or generalize a person's action. Like J. Krishnamurti, the great philosopher, we can call him a psychologist also, philosopher and guide, he says, whenever we relate to a person, we don't actually relate to that person. Like I'm talking to my mother, I'm not talking to my mother in the real sense. I am talking to the mother, the image of the mother which I have in my brain. That is, I have formed an image once I see a person. Like if I see my daughter, then I think my daughter will be very friendly, my daughter will be like this. So I form an image. The same thing, you see somebody else, a stranger also, you immediately form an image. So you talk to that image, you're not relating to that real person. So this is it, this is the conflict. So we cannot stereotype, we cannot have any fixed generalized belief. Now this is the next theory, social identity theory. Henry Dajfeld's greatest contribution to psychology. Now this is a person's sense of who they are based on their group membership. He proposed that the groups, that is the social class, football team, family, or whatever group, which people belonged to, were an important source of pride and self-esteem. Groups give us a sense of social identity, a sense of belonging to the social world. I'm from America. I'm a green card holder in America. So that gives them a sense of pride. I am a Brahmin. So that gives a sense of pride. So it's like that. So the group, the identity to the group to which you are attached, that gives you a pride and self-esteem. It divides the world into them and us based through process of social categorization, like class. So this is one of the prejudice. Cultures and social groups are also characterized by particular ways of thinking. For effective participation in social activities in the culture, members of the culture are expected to learn this. Some theories of learning and thinking propose that individuals learn ways of thinking directly in their social interactions with others. Particularly, they are engaged in solving socially defined problems. So only if they socially interact with the other person, they can compensate, or they can give something, they can compensate and they can contribute, they can complete for their cultures. The effects of having a learning disability or learning difference are not limited to educational outcomes. Individuals with learning disabilities may experience social problems also. Neuropsychological differences, that is any problem in the brain, can affect the accurate perception of social cues. with peers, that is what they think and from where, which social group they belong and where do I fit in. So these will be a problem. Researchers argue persons with learning disabilities not only experience negative effects as a result of their learning distinctions, but also as a result of carrying a stigmatizing label, a stigma in the society. Many studies have been done to assess the correlation, the relation between learning disability and the self-esteem which they get by socializing or identifying themselves with the social group. These studies have shown that an individual's self-esteem is indeed affected by his or her awareness of their learning disability. Means if I understand that I'm not good at math, then I will have a low self-esteem and I don't want to socialize. Students with a positive perception of their academic abilities, because if I know that I'm good at math and I'm always 100%, then I tend to have a higher self-esteem regardless of their actual academic achievement. Means this time I got 75 also, I think it's okay, but I'm very good. I'm a centum student. So that's it, higher self-esteem. However, studies have also shown several other factors can also influence this self-esteem. Skills in non-academic areas. So if you're good at athletics, arts, and if you're good at socializing, that also improve your self-esteem. So positive perception of one's physical appearance is also having a positive effects. People internalize the activity and later use the newly learned mental processes by themselves without the support of others. Cognitive development is the conversion of social relations into mental functions. That's what Vygotsky says. Learners first becomes aware of ways of thinking in a culture by participating with others to solve problems that they have. Means a social group. Let's suppose we belong to a particular caste. Now, we participate in the culture and in the socializing activity of that particular social group because we attach an identity with that particular social group. So whatever way of thinking in that, what is culture? Culture is the way of living, the way of thinking, the habit, the way of eating. So everything followed by that particular sect. So we need to, so if at all we are in a social group, we need to follow the ways of thinking in that particular culture. And the newly learnt material, whatever we have learnt in the social group, that has to be converted into mental functions. That's what he says. Now this picture speaks a million words. A learner is there, learner characteristics. So culture is what? The way of life, the way of eating, the way of reading, the way of living. So that's culture. So what is the cultural space of a learner? Learner characteristics. And assessment, resources, learners support, content, skills. So this is about a school-going children's cultural space. Can you see that?